Since the beginning of time, man has been fascinated with the idea of flight, the idea of letting go, wind beneath you, lifting you up and having you feel weightless as you soar through the skies. Failure after failure and financial woes spawned from a war room conversation between two companies would have an attraction hit the scene, barnstorming the skies and offering an exhilarating experience for nearly 20 years by simulating the thrill of air travel. After success of the 1980 opening in Thunder River Rapids and the purchase of the Six Flags Company in 1981 by Bally Manufacturing, Bally Manufacturing would provide a huge capital to various Six Flags parks to allow the company to get out of their drought and to bring in new investments. Taking 2 years in development for this attraction, the dialogue began between Six Flags officials and Intamin. But ultimately, it would be Intamin who would take the reins of the ideas of the project, as Six Flags officials took a back seat in the idea process and allowed Intamin to come up with the concept of what attraction would come to the park. The Great Six Flags Air Racers and Intamin Barnstormer at the price tag of $2 million was announced on February 15, 1984, to come to Six Flags Over Georgia and would open during the 1984 season. This was during a period when Six Flags Over Georgia was expanding its lineup of attractions. The ride was designed to simulate the experience of flying, a popular theme during that era, appealing to thrill seekers and families alike. It would be General Manager Spurgeon Richardson that was quoted by saying, "The Air Racer will be the park's home run hitter." The Great Six Flags Air Racer had an old-timey open cockpit biplanes that were suspended by cables and swung 100 feet off the ground, reaching max speed of 45 miles per hour as the biplanes would bank at a 56-degree angle. Intamin had an exclusive agreement with Six Flags that the Intamin Barnstormer ride model would debut first at Six Flags Over Georgia before it would appear at any other park in the world. Aforementioned, the Great Six Flags Air Racer was a plane-themed ride. This attraction held 12 six-seater ride vehicles designed to resemble Barnstormer biplanes. As the ride began, the planes would spin in a circle and tilt at various angles, giving the sensation of banking and diving through the air. The combination of speed and motion was designed to replicate the feeling of being in a stunt airplane or flying at high speeds. The mechanics were relatively simple too as well. The ride used centrifugal force to create the sensation of flight, with the planes moving in both vertical and horizontal directions. The planned opening was grand to say so the least. Six Flags would commission 30 vintage biplanes that would take off from McCollum Field in Kennesaw, Georgia, and would race 121 miles across various checkpoints. This was a reenactment of the days of pre-World War I barnstormers. This was in celebration of the grand opening of the Great Six Flags Air Racers. The ride would officially open for the 1984 season on May 11, 1984. The Great Six Flags Air Racer was an instant hit, particularly popular among younger thrill seekers and families looking for a ride that wasn't as intense as roller coasters but still offered excitement. While not the most intense ride in the park, the Air Racer was a reliable favorite for many guests, offering a fun motion-based thrill. But shortly thereafter, during its first season of operation, tragedy would strike.
Passengers on a ride at an amusement park in Atlanta had a harrowing experience yesterday. At Six Flags Over Georgia, a ride called the Great Air Race broke down, causing a chain reaction crash. 68 people were trapped inside planes, some for as long as 3.5 hours, and some were left dangling 70 feet off the ground before they were rescued by cherry pickers. Park officials say a computer malfunction caused the crash. There were no serious injuries.
On Sunday, May 27, 1984, 16 days after the ride opened to the general public, a computer malfunction took place on the Great Six Flags Air Racer that caused a chain reaction crash, trapping 64 riders inside the open cockpit biplane ride vehicles dangling at roughly 70 feet off the ground for 3 hours, injuring 34 riders who were taken to the local hospitals to be treated. Six Flags officials stated that most individuals weren't taken to the hospitals for injuries, but more so rather for dehydration from the warm weather. It was revealed that the computer malfunction caused a massive cable problem that made one plane hit the back of a plane in front of it as the ride was ending its end course. This dominoed into that some of the planes would shift from their normal position to some of them dangling 70 feet in the air, nose first, and some dangling tail first, ultimately causing a terrifying experience for parkgoers during Memorial Day weekend of '84. After 24 days later, filled with ride testing and 3 new safety systems plus a new backup computer installed, with this new backup computer conducting 25 checks on the ride and was designed to prevent this type of incident from reoccurring. With this new backup computer, it constantly monitored the ride's function, and if the ride is off more than 15 degrees from where it needs to be, then the new system would shut down the ride to prevent any issues. Six Flags Over Georgia would reopen the Great Six Flags Air Racer on June 20th, 1984. Since that incident occurred a little over 3 weeks earlier, attendance dropped 15%, which amounted to roughly 5,000 to 6,000 people. And after that, Six Flags would open up their second Intamin Barnstormer at the first ever Six Flags park in Six Flags Over Texas on June 28, 1984. The Great Six Flags Air Racer at Six Flags Over Georgia, though, would regain, as it would continue to operate from 1984 to the year 2000. As Six Flags Over Georgia grew and evolved, adding more roller coasters and high-tech attractions, rides like the Air Racer began to be seen as outdated. It would be announced that another world's first of its kind attraction would come to Six Flags Over Georgia in 2001.
Now, Six Flags screams extreme with the new Acrophobia. Face your phobia. Stand at the edge of extreme, tilt, then drop 20 stories into the unknown. Going down. Acrophobia.
Despite being retired, the Great Six Flags Air Racer holds a special place in the hearts of many longtime visitors to Six Flags Over Georgia. Those who visited the park during the 1980s and 90s often recall the ride fondly as part of the nostalgia of that era, as the same towers remain at the park still to this day, as it stands as Acrophobia. A bit of history lives on at the park. While it may not be as famous as some of the roller coasters that Six Flags Over Georgia is known for today, the Great Six Flags Air Racer contributed to the park's reputation as a fun, family-friendly destination during its early years that propelled the park to the thrill-seeking destination that it is today. Thank you all so much for watching this mini-sode documentary as we uncovered the history of the Great Six Flags Air Racer at Six Flags Over Georgia. Be sure to check out the documentary on the Great Six Flags Air Racer's successor, Acrophobia, and how it became the world's first Intamin gyro tilting drop tower. Be so kind also to follow me on social media. If you enjoy content like this and would like to take your support just a little bit further, be sure to check out my YouTube memberships. Yes, here on YouTube. And consider becoming a VIP member. And I'm also on Patreon too if you prefer, where you will receive exclusive members only videos and more awesome things like that, all via the YouTube membership and or on Patreon. Hey, your support is greatly appreciated. And with that, let me know what ride, attraction, or park would you like to be uncovered next. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and have a thrilling day.